So you're gonna give your spiel, isn't it?
Right.
Okay, so give me the intro.
Are we on?
You're on.
Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard. This class meets in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Rudy, how many years since your mother passed away?
Dallas Schwartz is going to be 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Okay.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Okay. So here are the admonitions, and it says in 25, Ve'vesi alechem cherev nokemes nekambris. I will bring upon you a sword avenging the vengeance of a covenant, of a bris.
Vengeance.
So it's vengeance for 25,
Yeah.
for violating the covenant, the bris. However, bris is not just the general covenant that Hashem made with the Jewish people, but of course it also refers to the bris milah.
Yeah.
Turn to okay. That is, if you go to a couple pages to 45,
45.
verse 45, it wraps up, I will remember for them the bris of the ancients, those whom I've taken out of Egypt. The bris, so the bris. So bris is the general covenant with the Jewish people, but it's also the bris milah. So one of the things that he's going to discuss in this lesson is why the bris milah is called bris, that it represents that it represents the entire covenant, so that we call it bris. Okay, that's one thing. The second is, I guess we can close up. The second is that in the admonishments of Parashas Kisavo, which we're learning, there are 98 admonishments. And what's 98? How's your gematria, people? Yeah. Oh, we're not done yet.
We're not done.
Not done. There's something else. What's 98? Is tzaddik ches,
Oh, that.
and chetz is an arrow. Let's turn to page 200. And 80, I think.
Which parsha? What are you looking at? What are you looking for?
Vayechi.
That's 280. Which? For which when he blesses, when he
Heat there's arrow-tongued.
Yeah.
That's on 283. They embittered him, became antagonists. Arrow-tongued men hated him. Just giving you arrows.
Okay, and then go ahead to, so right at the top of 282 and 283, the arrow-tongued men hated him, so you have arrows. And that's talking about Yosef, that his brother sold him.
Right.
Next it says, his bow was firmly emplaced, and his arms were gilded. From the hands of the mighty power of Yaakov, from there he shepherded the stone of Israel, the rock of Israel. From Hashem, God of your father, he will help you. And Shakai, he'll bless you with blessings of heaven, blessings of the bosom and womb. Okay. What's the beginning? Just a second. In 24, his bow, his bow, thank you, was firmly emplaced. Vateshev means it was like emplaced or settled. Or set, like a piece of jewelry gets set. It was settled. Be'eson is a position of strength. His kashto, his bow was set in a position of strength. What does that mean? Give me a second, boys.
Oh, his power.
Rashi says, his bow refers to his power. You cheated.
Of course.
His bow refers to his power, and it was firmly implanted.
He was set in his power.
Okay.
And he was set as the regent, and his power was
Yes.
was given
So
by Pharaoh.
Rashi then says, correct, Rashi then gives an Rabbosenu Darshu, a drash. So a drash is not the context. It's not the literal meaning. It says Vateshev Vesem Kashto, and this is later in the Rashi. It's not following. It refers to Yosef controlling his urge from the enticements of Mrs. Potiphar. Potiphar. And what does that mean? His bow was firmly set. The bow refers to his desires. Why? Because or maybe even to his privates, because the seed shoots like an arrow. The seed shoots like an arrow, and therefore the male organ can be referred to as a bow and arrow. And so it says right before that, the arrow guys that you noticed, the arrow, Jim, you pointed out in the end of 23. Okay, so that's another thing. And we have this in other places. He mentions it. We referred that in order for the man to, what do you call it? Conception to occur, the seed has to come out with force, and in halacha it says they don't have children, and they discuss if it's without all the tests that we have nowadays, the modern medicine, but that one of the things they would they would be an indicator would be if the seed does not shoot out like an arrow. That is the expression. So the idea is...
Right. We've had that before, I think. It
here? I don't remember
sounds
here.
familiar.
That if the seed shoots out like an arrow. So we have this comparison or a similarity between bow and arrow and the male organ and seed. Okay? So with those things, we can now... I think we're ready. There's one more thing. Oi, oi, oi. Beautiful. Okay, so now let's begin on 995. Jim, you're in the first seat today.
Arrow, do I just want to go to arrows and curses?
Arrows and
and
curses, that's what we are.
Arrows and curses. It will be that if you do not listen to the voice of God, your God, to keep all his commandments and statutes that I command you today, all the following curses will come upon you and overtake you. So Moses describes the consequences of the people abandoning their covenant with God, this passage is known as the reproof Tochachan, consists of exactly 98 curses. These curses are all a punishment for the blemish caused in the Sephirah of Yesod. This is the mystical meaning of the phrase, a sword avenging the vengeance of the covenant.
Which we found in the first set of admonishes.
Okay. The whole passage is referred to by the Torah itself as a covenant brit.
1 minute, we didn't look that up, but I want to read that to you.
Deuteronomy 28, 16.
On page 1083. You have it 69. No, 1085. Wrong guy. I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong page.
They look alike, 3s and 5s.
Yeah. Okay, Jim. Yeah, 69.
These are the words of the covenant that Hashem commanded Moshe to seal with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant that he sealed with them at Horeb.
Okay, this is the covenant. So it refers to all these admonishments as a bris.
Yep. A brit. Okay.
So, okay, go ahead.
All right. The whole passage is referred to by the Torah itself as a covenant brit. Simply stated, a covenant or pact is an agreement between two parties sealed by the clause that if the pact is abrogated, there will be real consequences. The existence of consequences cements the relationship and makes it serious or real for the parties involved.
That's some legal terms there, huh?
Yep. So, penalty, punitive actions. The Sephirah of Yesod is where all the powers of the preceding Sephirot coalesce into a concentrated essence, parentheses, the seed or semen, which is then meant to be transmitted by way of Malchut Nukva to outer reality as the birth of a new reality or a way of living. All these powers from the initial insight on are a gift of God that he gives us for positive, wholesome, and holy purposes. It is therefore crucial for this seminal message or energy to be channeled through the proper medium, that of Malchut. For Malchut, being the personification of God's will to have a home in the lower realms, is totally directed and dedicated towards using the energy of Yesod for the holy purpose of increasing the awareness of God's presence in the world. If a person chooses not to direct his energy into Malchut, but instead to divert it into non-holy channels, he's betraying his covenant with God, and he's taking his God-given gifts, whether his vital seed or any other gifts, resources, or talents he possesses, and using them for self-indulgent or egocentric ends. This explains why the commandment of circumcision specifically is called a covenant. After all, the whole Torah is God's covenant with the Jewish people. This also explains why Arizal here says that the consequences detailed by the Torah for abrogating its observance can be seen as the result of betraying the covenant of Yesod. In other words, all sins are ultimately sins of misdirected sexuality. And the specific sin of misdirected sexuality, in a sense, contains within it all other sins. The verse about the sword avenging the vengeance avenging the vengeance of the covenant is taken from the parallel rebuke passage in the book of Leviticus.
Okay, so what he says is that the sin of the bris means that the seed is wasted. It doesn't get absorbed by Malchus, by Nukva.
It gets wasted into egocentricity.
And similarly, any sin, so we're violating the covenant we made with Hashem, and we're taking the divine beneficence, our divine energy, and we're channeling it into other places, not where it's supposed to be. So that's why the sin of the bris is emblematic. It's of any time we violate the covenant with Hashem. Okay, go ahead.
And Yesod is the coalescence of all the beneficence at that point, designed to go to Malchus. And if it doesn't, that's the problem.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So, now
And I do want to point out, just for the record, that wasted seed can come about in different ways, and can come out through intimacy with one's wife as well.
Mm-hmm.
So even in that case, a person has to be careful that the seed is not wasted, and that it is, expelled and to the wife, to Nukva. Okay.
Now, the organ of procreation, the physical manifestation of Yesod, is likened to a bow that shoots arrows of semen. We see this with regard to halachic discussions regarding whether or not a particular discharge of semen can be considered to be potent, that is, cause pregnancy. I'm going to the note. Discharge of semen can be considered potent. It really is sperm. Not semen is not the. Yeah, semen is the liquid. Anyway, the seed is not considered potent, which is, there you're back to the sperm. If when discharged, it does not shoot like an arrow.
So it is compared to a bow that shoots in arrows.
The simile of ejaculation and shooting an arrow is found in biblical verses as well.
That we looked at, including the ones we looked up.
A whole bunch of them. All right. The target of the arrows is the target of the arrows of Zer Anpin is the parts of Rachel. We had that. We said the only legitimate target for Yesod is Malchus, personified in the narrow sense by one's wife, or in the broader sense by the holiness of the vessel as evinced in it being a vehicle for the dissemination of the godly idea through reality, which is what Nukva is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, making a home for Hashem. Therefore, when the Jewish people sinned and they caused the holy arrows to be dissociated from their rightful target, the consequence was that God shot them at them. The arrow was their own wounds. The verse applies normally to those who have sharpened their tongue like the sword and aimed their arrow, bitter words, to shoot the innocent in secret, Hence, since the community abuses their arrows, the power of Yesod, they bring upon themselves retribution in kind. Now we go to the Gematria. There are 98 curses of this passage. The numerical value for arrow, chetz, chet, tzadik, is 98. Oy.
It's a lot here.
There's a lot here, really, particularly in the all sins are ultimately sins of misdirected sexuality. I mean, in a non-sexual sense, and it's extremely
Yeah, I'm not
powerful.
sure why he. I'm not sure if that word is supposed to be there.
Well, it's
I would say
Sexuality?
all sins are ultimately sins of misdirected
Yesod.
energy.
Yeah,
divine energy.
Divine energy. Yeah, I would think that's better.
We'll leave it as a question mark.
But again, the picture here is a mirror up there, and we're given this knowledge. We all know this, and we know that.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I do, in a way. I don't. That's why.
The downfall of some of the greatest men throughout history has been because of the limb in between their legs.
Or where it went.
Exactly.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily the limb. It's where
Who-
it
Well,
goes.
well, yeah,
Who controls whom?
Yeah.
right.
Well, it's where it goes. It's that.
Who's
Yeah.
in charge?
Which,
in charge?
which head's in charge?
Well, that's what's said.
We've had that before.
But
Which
but
head
if
is
you're
in charge?
coalescing beneficence all there, okay, and it's supposed to go to Malchus. It who the I wouldn't blame it on the Yesod as much as the emotions that are driving it to
Of
other
course.
other places, and the lack of flow from the mind.
Well, if you look back to the
I-
original sin, right?
Right.
In the Nachash
Yeah.
engage in temptation of Chava,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there.
Yeah. it-
yielded the ultimate downfall.
right.
What are you talking about? What are you trying to bring out, Rudy? With the ultimate downfall.
What am I bringing out?
What are you bringing out?
What I'm bringing out is that I think that word is correct. It's sexuality. It's not energy. It's sexuality.
All sins are ultimately sins. Okay.
Yes.
But that's
The lust and the lust for carnal knowledge drives individuals to do things that they would never typically want to do or care to do.
well,
And a sin begets a sin.
but it's a misdirected sexuality.
Yes,
That's
it's
true.
Sexuality in and of itself
It's
is the way. There is a sexuality that makes things holy.
But
That-
the way-
that-
Yes,
but-
absolutely.
but this is
Sexuality
not-
nothing more than a mirror image of creation, right?
Right.
That's
And
Hashem's-
it is also the way that we procreate.
That's why.
it's creation.
We
So-
procreate, yeah.
So there is, I don't remember who, but I've seen that they go through like Bereshit, the beginning of Bereshit, and they write how each of the downfalls urge and relationships and intimacy were involved. In the Garden of Eden, so the snake seduced Chava. And afterwards he had Cain and Hevel, and it was over
The sister.
a woman, over a twin sister, a triplet. It came to the before the flood. You had the angels came down and were taking away the
Away
women,
with the women, right?
and you had
With Noah and Ham, what Ham did to his father.
yes, and then leading up to the flood,
Yeah.
was the people were degenerate and were degenerate, and I think some of these things it says there was when there was a bride before she went to her wedding, she had to submit to the governor. I think it's written there too, written
Yeah.
other places too. So it goes through one after another, and it's all sins of this, all episodes of this nature. But what you're saying is that throughout history, we see people have had their downfall.
Absolutely.
Gary Hart.
Oh, it just goes on.
Oh,
It goes on. The senator
Goes
from
on.
North Carolina, or I forgot his
Yeah,
name.
one from North Carolina, and the one from Washington, and the one from Arizona, and the one from Iowa, and the one from New Hampshire, and the one from...
Kennedy and Bush Senior.
Jefferson.
Bush Senior.
He was a good man.
What?
Bush Senior. I heard a
Barbara squelched it all. She squelched it all.
I heard a story.
She didn't want any.
I heard a story before Bill Cosby got into big trouble recently, and they confronted his wife and said, like, "What do you have to say about us?" And she says, "Well," she says, "there is only one Mrs. Cosby."
Right. I heard that. I remember
I think
that. Yeah. Only
I
one.
heard this from someone I think who knows them. You know where
She's
they
still
live.
Yeah.
You know where their house is.
Yeah.
In
Turner's Falls
Turner's
or
Falls.
Shelburne Falls.
Yeah, do
Shelburne
you know
Falls.
that do you know that he
Shelburne Falls.
first looked to live in Long Meadow?
He looked to live here.
He first,
For a while.
he was
While he was
renting,
education.
he was renting, and he wanted to buy here.
Yeah.
And there was some people who blackballed him.
What year was
I
that?
can use that
Wait,
term?
what year was that?
Probably
In the 60s.
70s.
60s, 70s.
I know some who were
No.
involved.
Well, I was asking specifically what year because I have a reason for saying it.
I don't remember particularly.
70s.
It
But
could-
I know-
Could have been the early 70s because
Yeah.
Yes.
it
Or 60s.
wasn't, well, the 60s, I'll be blunt about it, in 60s,
Well, we are in air, so be
okay,
careful what you're blunt about.
in the 60s, the African Americans were not allowed to buy a home in Long Meadow.
That's what Jim's saying.
I was in Long Meadow. It wasn't until I think 70,
He didn't buy
71,
the house, he rented it.
they wouldn't let him rent it either.
Okay.
They wouldn't let him rent either. It wasn't until 71 or so, somewhere on there, where they allowed African Americans to buy homes, because one of the first ones to buy a home was a neighbor of ours, next door. And
From
that was
Sumner Avenue or?
No, in Long
Long
Meadow.
Meadow, when he lived in
On
Long
Kenmore Drive in Long Meadow. And that was in the, I think, early 70s.
Okay.
Before that, Long Meadow, it was, you could not. Long Meadow was such that when they wanted to put a home, in Long Meadow for disturbed kids, and it was voted down at the town meeting. I was there when they had that meeting. They said no.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let them do that. But they were very staunch as to who could
Sure.
who could buy homes in Long Meadow. And that not only applied to African Americans, but also to all Asians. They were also excluded.
When did the Jews start moving here?
The Jews were there earlier, but only in certain
In certain
areas.
pockets.
In
Certain
certain pockets, they weren't.
You could
that's what-
not live in certain areas.
Uh-huh.
In
You
certain
didn't want to,
pockets.
yeah. Just like you
Okay.
could not join Long Meadow Country Club. Right.
All right.
You couldn't play the golf course
But
as a
look,
guest even.
Before the snake, the man said time, okay, and Hashem fashions the side, and he takes her from the man, brings her to the man. The man said that this time is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She'll be called woman, for from man was she taken. Therefore man shall leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Okay, they were both naked, the man and his wife. They were not ashamed. Shame came in when
After
the
the
serpent.
sin.
When the serpent.
After the tree of knowledge, yeah.
So there's a positive. There's showing you the holy way and the non-holy way, right?
Right.
From one
Oh, yeah.
perspective to the next.
Yes. Very good point.
So.
Oh, okay,
This was fine.
okay, so that was very good. Alan, you want to go ahead, 997.
The divine disease.
This is from the Tocha, from the admonishments.
Hashem will cause the pestilence to cling to you until it finishes you off of the land. It finishes you off of the land you are entering in order to possess. Which is, yeah. This is one of the curses of the admonition for the Tochacha. The mystical concept of pestilence, may it never befall us, is as follows. Know that everything that occurs is a function of the elevation process of the sparks that fell from the world of Tohu. For do not all souls derive their spiritual sustenance from the fallen kings of Tohu and their refinement, as we have explained regarding the statement of our sages that all Israel are princes?
Oh, that's what I didn't get.
That's
What's 14.4?
from Shabbat, from Shabbos 14:4?
Okay, probably the Mishnah.
Yeah.
If we say all Israel are princes, what does that mean? Rudy?
They emanate from royalty.
From which royalty? From the kings of Tohu.
So,
Which, as we've come across a number of times, huh?
A number of times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is
We're still paying
the
the price.
the sparks
But that's
That
the
crashed.
whole point.
yeah.
That was the whole point.
that we're picking up.
Yeah. And we get.
And this is called birurim. Birurim means to, we had it a few months ago, I explained it.
Yeah.
To clarify, to cleanse,
Yeah.
to choose,
To refine.
select.
Right.
To select and then to clarify it. Ding, hit a bell. It's also birurim. It's also sometimes we find the word bar as meaning clear and pure. Like I remember by the bar mitzvah of one of Rabbi Yafi's older sons in West Hartford, and his father-in-law spoke, and he talked about bar mitzvah meaning clear and pure of the mitzvah. So that's the word birurim. It means to clarify the shards and select them. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Now, when there remains an element of waste in the refined sparks, which was not separated out, it acts as a poison, killing the person during an outbreak of pestilence. May it never befall us.
May it never befall us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Refining reality, as we have explained previously, entails removing the element of ego or self-orientation from whatever aspect of reality we are working with. When this is done incompletely, that is, the individual's motives are not pure, and he therefore allows an element of self-interest to remain in the use he makes of the physical world, this admixture of impurity acts to misdirect the divine flow that results from releasing the sparks of holiness inherent in the physical world. If not arrested or checked in some way, this misdirection of divine energy results in disease. That not doing things for pure purposes.
Dis-ease.
Yes.
Huh?
I said dis-ease. I was separating disease into making
Dis-ease.
it dis-ease. Because you think of disease, it's disease, but it's also it's not ease. It's just a,
Yeah.
Way of
Essentially,
play on words.
not every word starts with a dis,
yeah,
and other things also.
right. I'm just,
Possible, impossible.
Right.
Not everything works like that.
I know, I'm just throwing that one out. Though.
Good, that's one of them. What about, how did we get here?
We're talking about misdirecting divine energy.
Right.
And it's the pestilence. We're talking about pestilence.
Pestilence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
We're talking
talking
about
about-
a curse that's pestilence.
The
One of the
admonitions that said, Hashem will cause the pestilence to cling to you until it finishes you off the land. So, this means that we're doing the birur, we're clarifying the shard of the tohu, but not doing it 100%, not doing it the right way. Correct?
Right.
Okay. That
And-
causes disease.
We're doing it for some selfish process, motive. There's self-interest in it. When it's self-interest in it, it allows the poison to overtake and get nourished, I would think.
Okay.
Which is what we keep doing.
Over and over again.
That what?
I said it allows, when we do it for selfish reasons,
Which
it
do
allows the poison to overtake, and then I said, and get nourished. And then I said, which we keep doing over and over.
Over and over again.
It's like,
We don't learn.
It's
Some of us never learn.
it just keeps happening. Yeah. And
That's
it creates more
Mwah.
husks, maybe I should put it.
yeah, but
More husks.
yeah, but we're not.
You know, I
The situation is not hopeless.
Oh no, I didn't say it was.
Okay.
I just said, it's amazing.
Aye, yes.
Sorry.
All right.
It's leaking out of the barrel faster than we can refill it.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
Okay.
It's like putting a hole in the bottom of the boat so the water will flow out, not realizing that
It's coming
in both holes. I'll put a hole here so it'll go out that. It doesn't work that
fine.
way.
Well,
Just more comes in and fills up.
Okay, let's continue.
Pestilence also occurs when the four names Havaya do not fully shine. That is, the names themselves are withdrawn, and all that remains is the four spellings out. The numerical values of these four spellings out are 46, 37, 19, and 26. Their total is 128. When to this are added the four kollels of the four names and the kollel for the sum itself, the sum total is 133.
comma.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. The numerical value of the word for plague, negev.
It's one of the words, it's not the word used in this pasuk.
This is the source of the plague, may it never befall us. To review,
I'm trying to figure out what the Hebrew for may it never befall us is. They only give the initials, they don't give the whole word. Okay.
and to review the four spellings out of the name Havaya, 72, 63, 45, and 52, they have it listed. Do you want to go through each one again? Do you want to go through each one?
So here it is.
This
I'll go through.
Yeah, you go.
So what it's saying is that yud and can be spelled out one way, but it's 20, but we're removing the first letter, so we're left with 10. Hey can be expanded three ways: hey yud, hey aleph, or hey hey, and which are 6, 10, or 15. But we're going to remove the first letter, hey, and we're left with 10, 10, 1, or 5. The vav, which by itself is 6, if the spelling is expanded, it could either be yud vav, yud aleph vav, or vav, vav
Just-
yud vav, vav aleph vav, or vav vav. And this also, you remove the first letter, which is worth 6, and you're left with either 16, 7, or 6. And finally, the hey, like we said before, So what comes out is the four names of Hashem equal 72, 63, 50, 45, and then 52. If we take out the first letters, then 72 becomes 46, 63 becomes 37, 45 becomes 19, and 52 becomes 26.
And then it will be seen that subtracting 26, the value of the name Havai itself, from the four spelled out values, 72, 63, 45, 52, gives the four remainders above, which is Negev, Nun Gimel Pei, 50 plus 3 plus 80, 133. Clearly, the withdrawal of the name itself from its full spelling out, leaving only the letters used to spell out the main letters, indicates a highly abnormal, defective revelation of divinity. This defective life force comes into the world as disease, life, but a harmful form of life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Look at the next one. That's really amazing.
It is therefore good to always meditate in times of pestilence on this name, that is the word Negev. This being in this context a holy name of Hashem. Vocalize it as follows: a shuruk under the nun, a chirik under the gimel, a tsere under the fei, as if it were pronounced nugefei.
One moment, please. Nu, gi, fei.
Nugi Fei.
Okay. Is that it?
No.
Since this
No, that's it for the
Yeah,
bold?
that's it.
Yeah, for the bold, yeah.
Hold
The
on,
bold.
please.
In times of
Yeah.
One moment.
pestilence.
Because in the Hebrew it says that the meanings of these, I guess, syllables are nun, which shuruk, gimel, chirik. Oh, okay. He just
yeah.
explains it in detail. What that is. Okay, continue.
Since the word Negev was derived from an iteration of the name Havaya, it may be considered a derivative name itself. The Arizal does not here explain why to meditate on this word as if it were vocalized with these letters.
With these,
Nugi Fei.
With Negev.
with these,
Letters.
Letters.
with these vowels.
With okay.
Yeah, vowels.
Oh, vowels.
One moment, please.
It's not letters, it's vowels.
Right.
One moment, please.
Nugi.
Jim, that's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Iteration
Iteration.
and reiterate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know if reiterate is related to iterate.
Sure.
What did you say before?
Sure.
Yeah. Iterate would say it.
What-
Reiterate is
What did you
Say
say
it again.
before?
Disease.
Disease, and then
Dis-ease.
ease.
Ease.
dis
So
ease.
I'm not sure how closely
It's-
related. Reiterate and
It,
iterate.
it touches it.
Iterate means to go back and forth
Yeah.
between two different sides.
And so reiterate,
Go back and forth again.
going back again.
I don't know. Reiterate is to repeat.
Repeat, yeah.
Ned Herman speaks a lot about iteration.
Repeat,
And-
but the idea repeat would be, in essence, go back and
There
go
you go
back
again. To repeat. And what if you just Pete?
You're not peating, you're
Yeah,
repeating.
You repeat.
He's the guy who was left on the boat, right?
Right, that's the vote, yeah.
Pete and repeat were in the boat.
Right.
Pete fell out. Who was left? So Pete was the guy who was left
Pete.
on the boat. Okay. Anyways,
Remember, we're on, yeah.
Okay.
that's okay. That's kosher.
I know, but it's
Okay.
strange.
Go ahead, Owen. $9.99 on top.
999.
Agent $9.99.
It is also advisable to meditate on the formula for the incense, both in the morning, before the morning prayers, and before the afternoon prayers, when you recite the verses. And Hashem said to Moshe, take for yourself spices, stakle, oncha, The incest possessed the power to ward off pestilence, as can be seen from the aftermath of the Korach rebellion, when Aaron used the incest to stop the
Stop
spread
the
of the
plague.
plague. Specifically meditate on the first instance of the word spices, samim, in this verse, permuting it according to the system of Ayik Becher. This will produce a specific name of Hashem, that is Mem Tav Kuf Vav, which I, Rabbi Chaim Vital, do not remember how the Arizal said it is to be vocalized.
We have the letters, we don't know what the vowels are.
Right.
What is Ayik Becher? Very simple. It's 1, 10, 100, 2, 20, 200, 3, 30, 300, and so on. So what's that in the Hebrew alphabet? What's 1?
Aleph.
And 10 is? 10.
No, Yud.
Yud, and 100 is? Kuf.
Kuf, kuf.
Okay, 2 is, so that from there you get Ayik. 2 is
Beit.
Beis.
Beis. 20 is
Kaf.
Chaf.
It's all set
And
for-
200 is
It's all here.
Reish. Yeah.
Reish. And Gimel on Shin, Dalet. So it's got them all broken down.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
See, it's all set forth.
And they put in the finals there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
This-
all the way up.
Yeah, the system takes its name from the first two letter triplets formed this way. Okay.
So apparently, the letters of each column can replace other letters in that column.
Okay.
Okay.
Go on.
Yes.
Now, whenever we produce a divine name through permutation using the Ayik-Becher system, we always take the letter in question and transform it into the closest letter following in the sequence. For example, an aleph becomes a yud becomes a kaf becomes an aleph. The same applies to the other letters of the alphabet. Each of the 9 triplets should thus be seen as a wheel. Thus, the word for spices, samim, samach mem yud, final mem, transforms using the 6th, 4th, and 1st of the 3 triplets, vav, samach, final mem, daled mem, tav, and aleph, yud, kaf.
I got lost.
Well, I did. It's replacing things.
Hold on.
It tells you in the next process, tells you how it does.
Oh, okay.
It tells you how it does it if you keep.
How so?
'Cause
The
it's more-
samach of samim permutes the final mem of the 6th triplet, vav, samach, final mem. The mem of samin permutes to the tuf of the 4th triplet, daled mem, tuf. The yud of the samim permutes to the kaf of the 1st triplet, aleph, yud, kaf. The final mem of samin permutes to the vav of the 6th triplet, vav, samach, final mem. For as we have said, if the letter in question is the 3rd of the triplet, we substitute it for the 1st letter of the triplet. Thus, the word samim permutes to the letter combination mem, tuf, kuf, vav.
Which is what we can't pronounce
Samach is
anymore.
mem,
The name of
mem is
Hashem, we
tuf,
can't say.
yud is kuf, final mem is
Kuf.
vav.
This
Kuf.
letter is Kuf.
Kuf.